Hi everyone, good morning, and good to see a lot of attendees already logged in for this webinar today. Uh, I know most of you guys, I don't think most of you, but I think every one of you are at home, safe with your family, and having a lot of time with your family members, and at the same time we all are having a personal time to gain more knowledge on softwares and product. So that's why we thought that we would do this webinar so that people sitting at home and do not have the liberty to go out and work or maybe go to their respective studios or workplaces can at least sit at home and gain more knowledge on the new product releases which happened recently. So thank you so much guys for logging in, and I hope everyone is safe at home. So I'm just going to pause for a minute because there are a lot of attendees already waiting and there are a couple of more who would be logging in soon. So give me a second and then I'll be starting the session soon. All right, we are good to go. And again, once again, I hope everyone is safe and everyone is at home. Before I start the session, just wanted to disclose this safe harbor statement, which is a general, statement from the Autodesk point of view. Like in case whatever I'm showing is already been released, that's not a problem at all. But in case if there are features which I'll be talking about, which will be coming soon in our new feature releases, we don't promise the date of those products or the features when will it be released. And in case of people who are making decisions on buying products and stuff like that based on those features, it's just like we say that it's your choice to make decisions on your purchases and so on. So moving ahead, um, all I wanted to talk about is Maya 2020, which released in December 2019. We have a lot of changes which was done to this product, and I'm really very excited to talk about them. Of course, I don't have that much bandwidth to go and talk about individual tools and features, but I'm going to focus on key main features which are very interesting, and there are tons and tons of resources available online as well, which I'm going to share with you, so that you can in your free time go through each and every individual features depending on your interest and depending on your workflow, the day-to-day activities which you guys do, and explore your knowledge. Also, Maya 2020.1 got released last week, maybe a few days back. I'm going to also talk about that, which is also very interesting. And one more fact is, yes, I'm working from home as well, and there will be a couple of noises or whatever. Please pardon me. Do not, just excuse me for all that thing. And at the end of the session, there is definitely a Q&A thing which you guys can ask me questions on the chat box. I will try to answer maximum amount of questions which I can. In case if I miss few questions, don't worry about that, because the list of questions will be received to me after the session, and since I have the time, I will try my level best to answer them individually. So that's something which is a part of the session. One more thing is, at the end we have a poll question, like there are some 6 or 7 poll questions which will be popping up on your window. Please get some time out to answer those poll questions, which will help us improve our webinar sessions and based on your interest. And also people who attend or answer all the poll questions, there are chances of for some of you to win some goodies from Autodesk. So stay back, stay tuned till the end of the session. for two things: A, for the poll questions, of course, and yes, for the entire webinar, which I'll be presenting on Maya 2020, and of course Maya 2020.1. So before I go ahead, I would like to play a quick show reel on Maya 2020, and I'm going to leave you guys on that. All right, that was the intro of Maya 2020, which again I said, it got released in December 2019. It took us a while because we wanted to prepare for this, and there were a couple of more things which we also wanted to schedule it with. That's why a slight delay in doing this webinar. But coming back, I have done a couple of webinars in the previous months as well, which was on Maya 2019. And people who have attended this webinar would know the fantastic new improvements which happened in the last couple of versions. Now, what are we trying to achieve in this couple of new releases is not just tools, because we know that there are enough tools for people to get some fantastic jobs done, but we focus more on the artist requirement. We know what the artist now requires is a faster system, a tool which is much more faster in terms of performance, and also it's much more lighter because and flexible, because he can add more iterations to his animation job or modeling job than to struggle with the file and then at the end get tired and just leave the job where he has where he has been stuck at. So the first thing which we have added in 2019 as well as 2020 was faster animation, much more serious effects like Bifrost. Arnold GPU got released officially with Maya 2020, which was one of the great things in because we actually waited for a long time in the past. And of course, we have new animation improvements and UI improvements, which I'm going to talk a lot today. Moving ahead, now, I said that there has been a lot of improvements for the artist, and it was all possible because of you guys, people like you. We have a very strong community, and we have an online portal called as the Maya Ideas, where a lot of our artists and users have requested ideas related to features, performance, and tools and changes and so on. So even you guys can do that, and I'm sure a couple of you guys have already started uploading features, requests, and so on. If you have any ideas to improve something which is already existing in their softwares and something which needs to be added, you can just feel free to add your ideas. And if there are people in the globe, the other part of the world, who also needs something very similar and they like your ideas, the more the likes, it will be the more the votes you get or those ideas, that will be considered as the first preference, and the development team would look into it. Obviously, we cannot promise that it will be delivered immediately because it takes a lot of effort, manpower, and also to make sure that it works fine. Only then it will be released in the product, but at least we assure that it will be considered. So Maya Ideas, it's a great tool for people who use Maya, and also there are other the ideas for 3ds Maxes, Arnold, and so on. But today, since it's a Maya webinar, I would like to you guys to view it, and in case if there are features which some people have already requested, please vote for them so that the tool gets released as soon as possible. Now, the couple of improvements which I'm going to talk about, as I said, I'm not going to talk about everything, but yes, couple of them in this webinar today is improvement in the cache playback. In my previous example in the previous webinars, I have spoken about how the cache playback has been incorporated in Maya 2019, and how we have improved in 2020 is what I'm going to talk about. So there's a tremendous improvement in the cache playback features. The image place caching and the smooth mesh caching is also a part of Maya 2020. So let me just jump to, okay, let me just switch off all the unwanted apps which I have opened. Okay, cool. Now I have the Maya application. I'm just going to say uh, hide everything, and just open the file which is called as the layer dynamics. Okay, now what I've done is I'm not going to go step by step because this is something which already you guys are aware of. What I've made is a table kind of a thing, and there is a normal disk which I have made it as like an end cloth. So if I go inside the dynamics FX panel and I say end cloth and create an end cloth, this is what happens. And this end cloth is being I have made it collide with the existing table, so that when I play, what happens is the end cloth falls
Hello everyone, just give us a moment, please. Thank you.
Fine now. I guess, yeah. I can see the sound bar moving ahead, which means I'm audible. Anyone who wants to just send you a message saying that I'm audible can do that. It will be of great help. Yes, thank you, Nagarjuna. So, okay, I'm just going to quickly repeat what I said was if I switch off the cache playback, okay, what I did was just switch off the cache playback, and when I scrub, it's the file being lighter, it still works, but when I go back, when I move my cursor behind, it does not update or does not go back, and that's because there is no cache in the memory. So what does this do is it keeps the cache in the cache playback memory in the GPU, and helps me not only just scrub in forward, but also helps me go back and do the same thing. So in case if for an animator, if you have files like ncloth or dynamics attached to your animation, you don't have to actually hide them and cache and preview them. But in case in short, you can just, along with the dynamics, you can have a very good animation check done, which is really a great thing to have with. Uh, Another thing is, inside the cache playback, since I'm already there, I can also show you that there is a cache smooth mesh active. So this one is also very handy, because most of the time we know that if we have a scene which has, let's say, for example, smooth surfaces, for example, I just go and say smooth ones, which adds more divisions to the file, but even that will play really smoother, because earlier in the case we used to remove the smoothness of the object and then play it. But in now you don't have to do that. Your characters, your models will have a smooth edge, instead of having a very hard edge, which actually is not a production quality. But now if you want to see in the viewport the final output, the smooth output of that mesh, you can do that. So that's again a very handy thing for animators to judge their animation. And at the same time, if you want to send a final playblast file to your clients for approvals, you're doing at a very high quality thing. So that's one nice feature about this thing. Okay, moving to the presentation part again, I have another thing to talk about, which is the image plane caching. We all know that there was an issue with the image plane not moving real time, and most of the guys who do VFX have something or the other in the background to match your foreground with. Now if that is not playing real time, it's a task to be done, right? So what I can do is, okay, let me not just remove this file. I can just say create a new camera. Okay, and watch this through the camera view now. Yeah, let me just keep the same shot. And what I can do is, inside the camera environment, I'm just going to create a new view, a new image plane, and I'm just going to go inside. I have an image plane which has already been created, and that's a rough image plane, guys. Don't please judge me on that. I just rendered something very quickly in Maya, which I'm using it as an image plane. So the whole idea is to say that you have some image plane in the background and something in the foreground. So earlier, if you did not have the cache, you can see when I'm okay, obviously I'd say use image sequences. The image sequences never used to play back real time. When you used to play back and all, it used to stutter. But with the cache playback in your thing, what happens is the image plane also gets cached along with the animation, and what you get is a smoother playback. Okay, obviously this is just for 20 odd frames, so I'm not going to keep it for long. And if I play, you can see that this background image plane plays real time, and that's a very good advantage for animators, for camera match move guys and so on, so that the image plane does not get stuttered, or the refresh rates is bad and so on. So image plane caching with the cache playback is again another new feature which was added in Maya 2019. Okay, the ghosting preview. I'm not sure how many of you guys have actually tried Maya 2020, but it's a very cute and nice thing, especially for animators. I'm just going to keep it very simple. I have a, a very badly animated spear, which looks like it's just bouncing. So I'm just going to play back and show that this is a bouncing spear, which is uh, manually keyframed. So if you can see, when I select these keyframes, you have those manual keyframes done. And why did I do that? Was for a simple reason. is for animators, most of the time when you are in one frame, one certain keyframe, like for example right now I'm on 27, but if you want to see the previous keyframe and the next keyframe, but not the keyframe, but the position of the sphere, you might have to always go back and uh, keep judging where the sphere position was in the frame number 15 and so on. But when you keep the sphere selected, now you have a very interesting tool which I think is in the animation tab called as the visualize. I can say ghost selected. So when I click on ghost selected, and what I do is I suggest say apply. What happens is it gives me a previous frame ghost of the animation. What happens? Okay, so it's giving me the ghost image of number of frames which I have selected. So since I've selected 6 frames, or I can just make it 2 frames and say apply, that will be just 2 frames of ghost image. And if I say I want more number of frames, it will, and I say apply, it will give me more number of frames and so on. And step after the current frame, because there is nothing after the sphere, I mean like before the sphere, before the animation starts, I can also have a judgment like after the sphere bounces from 27 frame, where will the sphere go, and so on. So accordingly I can change my trajectories and so on, so that we can have a very clear view of where my animations are going. So there are a couple of things like you can have custom frames for frame number 1, frame number 10, frame number 30 and 20 when 30. So when I apply that, you can see these are what I have. And if you want more also, you can say I want it for 45, I want it for 55, and I want it for 60, and just say apply. You have keyframes like ghost images for all these keyframes. So these are some really nice features which are good for animators, like custom key steps, like frame number and so on. You can just say step sizes and so on, say apply. So you have these 2 keyframes, and for frame number this and that. All this can be manually adjusted depending on what you want. So apply it for all the keyframes. So wherever there are keyframes, there will be a ghost image in that position, so where your object is going at what particular time or frame, and in what position, and that can be easily handled. If you go inside the attributes and you go inside the display, or maybe just go back and say mesh controls, object display. Sorry, this is where I have to be. That's ghosting images, and here you have the parameters where in case if you want to change the color of the ghosting and some of the more presets and so on, you can do so. So it's a very handy tool for any kind of animation. If you want to do this, is one thing which will help the animators to understand the previous and the next frames, and so on. Let me just go back and jump to the next slide. This is again a very interesting tool, and this has been requested by a lot of artists and animators. And these are the features requested in Maya Ideas Forum, which got implemented in Maya 2020. So what is this exactly all about? So let me just go back and open a file which is okay. Let me just take one of these things. So I have a file of an army man. This was the only one which I could find instantly, was in my system, already shared with me by one of my colleagues, Kalpesh. So thank Kalpesh for sharing this he extracted from the industry collection package tool, which is called the character generator tool, which is an online tool where you can create and customize your own characters and just download it and use it. And we have an animation done to it, where you can see this guy is coming and just having a look on the left and right side of his. This animation also was not done manually or keyframed animation. This was directly we assigned the motion capture data information which was available inside Maya in the asset in the content library, and it's very simple tool to do it. So you must have seen this in our previous webinars and also available online if you want to just check how to do this. But only the whole idea about me was, you can see this character jump running from frame number 1 to blah 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 and stopping at say about 58, 59, 60 frames. Now the whole idea is to know whether if you want to have some comments for yourself, maybe that this guy runs from frame number this to this and from frame number that to that. What you can do is you can just select these many free keyframes, and if you want to right click, you can right click, or you can see there's a small icon over here. If you click on this icon, this is a new feature which has come especially for animation bookmarks. Like if you want to say that this guy is running from frame number 0 to frame number 23 or 25, whatever, I can just change it, and the color of this has to be blue. So when you say create, it creates a bookmark for you for your reference, or maybe for your colleagues reference, or if you want to send this file to somebody else, you can have a comment written to it. Now and from there 25 to 35, I have this guy stop. Yeah, stop, that's it, and this color would be green. And from here I'm pressing shift, guys. If I don't press shift also, I can just select this and say look left. Okay, and this would be some random color, and you want to customize your own color, you can do that as well. It has all the tools readily available for you guys to customize, and say done and say create. Okay, yeah, you want to say 36 to 46 is what he's going to say look, and then after that again I'm doing the same thing. He's just maybe resting. Okay, just don't go with what terms I'm using, but it's just for our understanding that this can be done. All these bookmarks can be added randomly without going down. This was not there earlier, so that's a very good tool that you know what's happening over here, what's happening over here, what's happening here, and so on. Now there are various other things also along with it. Like for example, if you right click and say that you want to create a bookmark or edit the bookmark, you can do that. Okay, and also if you right click on this, you have the same thing. You can jump to the next bookmark. There is a hotkey for it, so you can jump to the next bookmark, and next bookmark, next bookmark. Why am I doing it right click is so that everyone can see it. So you can just press the semicolon, so to jump to the previous bookmarks, and so on. There are hotkeys assigned to this also. If you want to focus on the running part only, and you have your time slider is too big and this is very small, what you can also do is just a frame bookmark, so you're only framing the one which you want to work on, because there will be a lot of keyframes in between. So this is something which you can do it, frame the next, and maybe unframe all, so that every all the bookmarks are open in front of you. Now that's not just enough. You also have something called as bookmark manager. So when you open this bookmark manager, what you get is a complete list of bookmarks which you have created. Now for example, here in this case I have created only 4 bookmarks, but then when you are into animation, when you're doing some production jobs, I'm very sure that you will be having more than x amount of bookmarks, more than at least 4 I can say. And if you want to change the naming nomenclature of each and every bookmark, you can do it very easily. Like I can say alt or whatever, stop, whatever. I just want to say that you can, sorry, stop, stop, and you can change the frame numbers and so on. Here you can just frame that particular bookmark, okay, or remove it. Okay, I just don't want to do that, sorry, just framed, sorry. Okay, so what does this do is, wherever my cursor is, like for example it's on the 12th frame and I press this, it will just create a bookmark for that 12th frame. Okay, 12 to 13 for one frame, which I don't want to. So I'm just going to undo this, and you can frame what we did on the previous right click version is this, and you can delete the bookmark, and unframe all is the same. So everything is available here. Jump to the next bookmark, next bookmark, next bookmark, or frame all of them is ready in front of you. If you don't want to right click and say new bookmark, you can directly keep the manager open and say add new bookmarks and keep adding bookmarks as and when it's required. So this is a very handy and flexible tool which was introduced in the version 2020. Very good for animators, and again this comes from feature request which has been requested by a lot of animators across the globe. All right. I'm sure I'm audible. Nidesh says that I'm not audible.
Can hear you.
Yes, there is. Yeah, there are questions. I'll please keep the questions for later, because there are chances I may miss the questions. But yes, you can export bookmarks um, to your other fellow members, because what happens is, uh, if you have a scene which everyone is working on, you guys are working on modeling, somebody else is working on animation and so on, you can export these presets to all the other fellow members. So that's absolutely possible. Yes. All right, moving ahead to the presentation part. Sorry. Yep. Audio, that's again a very interesting tool. Most of the animators, if you remember, the audio tool has been there in Maya for a long time, and there has been very less improvements. So what we did this time is much more interesting thing. Let me just go back to Maya, and all right, I don't want to import any file. I just want to import an audio file. So there are a couple of things which you can do. You can directly import audio into your outliner. For example, if you have a audio file, and you can just, let me just see where I have the audio file saved. Demo Maya 2020. There is something called as, I can just directly drag and drop here. It works. Or else most of it works mostly. Sorry, my bad. If you're on a Mac, Maya on a Mac platform, you can drag and drop. Okay, but over here you can just directly say audio and import audio. I'm just going to minimize this for a second. Yeah, and when you say import audio, yeah, this is what we have. And yeah, you can just do various things, like you want to play back real time, you want to play back set range to the sound length, and of course we all know, I'm just going to make it a little louder. Okay, assuming you guys can hear the sound, but it plays. Okay, so when you scrub, it plays. But earlier, if you remember, when you play, it would not play real time. So what you can do is you can say playback speed, play real time is already there. I think let me cache playback. I think. Let me just check. It should be playing. I can just say real time. Okay, now it plays, I can hear it, but you're not able to hear it because of the volume. So there is a new volume control button which has been given on this side. So if you click on this and increase and decrease, this is a very handy tool. You don't have to go adjust the system sound, which will change the sound of the entire system. So a lot of people are used to listening to listening to some of the music on their headphone at the same time working. Now in their case, it used to be a task, because if they reduce the volume of the system, the music or will also go off. So this is especially for artists who would like to adjust the volume of the waveform of the Maya timeline, animation timeline. There is a separate tab which can be adjusted directly there and there itself. Now, one more very important thing is about the, I'm still, since I'm talking about the time slider, let me also say that you can now increase the time of the size of the time slider to whatever you want. And this is basically, if you have minute details of audio which needs to be seen, you can do that. And also you have tools like display, set to range, playback, display key, like there's something which I wanted to show is, okay, when you go to audio, adjust volume is there, delete sound, waveform display is now in centered. I can say waveform display on the bottom because you want the keyframes and the bookmarks to be segregated, or you can say display on the top, or you can display as how it used to be in the centered. So these are the things which you can very easily do it now with the audio tool, which is available inside the Maya tool. Now you can also see there is an audio file which has come inside the outliner, which you can change it anytime you want, or you can also say mute, which is just like hiding a layer. Like, so that's absolutely available inside the outliner itself. So you don't have to go reduce the volume and blah 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 and all that stuff. So that's some new addition to Maya 2020. There are a couple of them which you can go and explore on the Maya Learning channel. I'm going to talk about that later. Yeah, okay, I'm going to talk about the animation channel later, but let's talk about something which is called the new Revit command. Okay, the Rivet command is a very interesting tool for especially people who are, you've done the modeling, you've done the animation, and after the animation is done, you want to add an extra element to a body or to a character, or it can be anything. Let's say I'm going to import the same army man. Okay, and yeah, what I have is this guy running, which we all know, and for some reason I have one more thing which I had created already. Okay, just going to keep it behind. Assume that this is a school bag, or like a military bag, whatever, which needs to be placed on his back. Okay, but the animation and everything is already been set. Now how do you do that? Because it's already done. You need to either use a locator and parent with it, and it's going to be a task. It used to be a task before as well. So in the latest feature, like the latest tool, you have a very handy tool. I'm just going to just give me a second. Yeah, let me just go and say, yeah, select the, give me a second. Is it called skeleton? I'm just searching for something which I am still looking at. Yeah, deform nodes. Let me just try to make it 0. No, this doesn't work. Give me a second, guys. I'm just checking what went wrong. Okay, I just wanted one of the nodes. Somehow the characters going from those. Let's say this. Yeah, it works. So what I wanted is, I want the character to be on the first position, because I don't want to move this bag somewhere in the background, and it's already the character is not in the 0 position. So let me just make this guy come back to the 0 position where I have this object of mine. I'm just going to position it slightly behind. Okay, and assume that this is the bag which I made. Okay, don't go with again the shape and size of this object, just this is for a reference itself, and I'm just going to hide it for now. What I'm going to do is select, right click and select a vertices of this. So for example, if I want it over here, I want it over here, I want it over here, wherever. So I can select where the bag has to be located to. So this is where it is, and I'm just going to go inside the animation and sorry, the windows. Okay, what am I doing is deform, and I select, say, proximity wrap. No, not this proximity wrap. I'm just saying. Okay, it's Rivet. Sorry, it's in the rigging part. Deform, where is it gone? Rivet, constraint, Rivet. Okay, so it's in the constraint, the Rivet. So when I do that, what I get is a locator. You can see there's a locator which I've got. Okay, and this one and the polycube, I'm just gonna say group it, and let me unhide the polycube. And now I'm just gonna select the thing and make it again one so that it takes its, oh, what's wrong, what did happen, what did it happen, why. Okay, there's small confusion on various things which did not happen. Okay, let me see. Okay, sorry, my bad. The grouping was done in a wrong way, I guess. So let me just ungroup this once again and maybe put this back. Oops, sorry, my bad. Let me just undo it quickly, guys, because what I did was a wrong grouping and that leads to this, I'm sure. So let me just remove this and put this grouped to this one. It should work fine. Yes, it does. And now when I see this, it's stuck to its back and it's taking exactly the same animation. So all you need to do is just pin this thing to a vertices of anything, any object. It can be a character, it can be an object, it can be a car, it can be anything, and it sticks to it. So there are various additional tools and parameters also involved in this Rivet tool, but just to give you a glimpse of what can it do, this is a very easy method of explaining the entire process. So that was the Rivet tool. I understand. There are almost a lot of improvements in the animation part. I'm not going to get into that because there are tons and tons of them included in it. So I'm just going to tell you quickly what's there. But to be very honest, very honest, there are about 60 plus animation improvements. So I'm just going to skip that for right now. Sorry, I'm just going to and fro. The next interesting thing is the Retopology tool and the Remesh tool, which has been introduced inside Maya 2020. Fantastic tool for modelers and people who do download models from the internet and then want to retopo it. Earlier, I remember that it used to be a task to do it because there was a lot of manual things involved, steps involved. It's not anymore. So for example, let me just take a very simple object that's this one, and let's say I'm not want to increase a lot of subdivision, but a bit. Okay, and yeah, maybe the radius can be slightly bigger if you want to. Yes, I can just keep it this way. Okay, let's see if I can make it one or chords. Yeah, whatever. So in case if I want to make just few area of this object smoother, okay, and not include the entire ball, I can do that, because earlier, if you remember, there was a tool called a smooth tool which used to smoothen the entire object. But here in this you have the new mesh tools, and there is something called as the remesh tool. Obviously, if you do smooth, it will smoothen the entire thing, but remesh does it only for those limited areas. You can see it did not extend it here, it just did it for so many little bit of this. I can reduce the iterations, or I can increase the iterations to 2 and stuff like that, not just iteration thread. So I can limit it to here. I can change the threshold to maybe 1 or maybe 5 or maybe 15, so that when I change this, okay, it just extends or it does not extend. It all depends on how much threshold have you added to the scene. And smooth strength can be 0.5 or something like that, which obviously will take its own time to do it. But yeah, this can add more number of segments only to selected areas. And not only that, then you can keep smoothing it further by because maybe you want some more segments only in a particular area, some maybe ears, and you want to create the shape of the ear. You don't need to smoothen the entire object. You can just select that particular area and smoothen it, which is a fantastic the feature in this new release. uh, there is something called as remesh. Okay, the simplest example of remesh would be, let's say for example, I have a spear which is this, and I have another spear which is this, maybe, yeah. And I can have a cylinder, let's say, of this shape, just this. All right, now and maybe anything else if you want to add, you can add. This is just to show the capabilities of this tool. So let me just make this radius a little smaller, not this much, yeah, and try to fit it in this, right? So assume I have all these things, okay, and this can be a character, this can be anything, okay, and I want to boolean all this thing. Like, so what I can do is, let's say I want to keep these two objects as a union. Oh, sorry, what did I do? This and this as oh, intersect. Okay, and this also can be union. Yeah, and this could be a difference, like, I've booleaned it. Now you can see the mesh is not free form. Like, there is a issue in the mesh flow here, there is a issue in the mesh flow here, there's an issue in the mesh flow everywhere, right? This is simple stuff, but what we can also do is, now I can select them and go to mesh and say retopologize. It just will take a time, whether it did it. Not a very good example, I guess. Let me just change this, and I have a retopo car. Okay, simple one. We all know that we used to create baby cars when we used to be learning Maya for the first time, like, or modeling for the first time. Now what I did is, I have just added these cylinders and stuff like that, and this is a separate object. This the back bumper is a separate object, but I can just select this and boolean it difference. And now what I can do is go to mesh and say retopo. Let me just edit, reset the settings and apply to it, and this is what I get a retopoed mesh flow which is seamless. Otherwise the mesh flow would be very odd. And if you want to do something like, if you wanted to have a UVW map, or you wanted to do some texturing part and all that stuff, would be a really difficult part. But retopo does a fantastic work and a very easy tool. And of course you can just add more number of polygons to it, and add more tolerance to it, or reduce the tolerance to make it more smoother, tougher, harder, or whatever you want to. So this is a very easy tool, very handy tool. Even if you have models downloaded from the net and which has triangulated mesh, this is one tool which you can try it out. Also giving an example of the recap, like, if you remember my previous webinars where I spoke about recap tool, which is a photogrammetry tool. I go out, click pictures of an object, and then upload the pictures on recap. When I download, I get a mesh, which is good. But the problem of that mesh was it used to be a triangulated mesh. And now when I changed that, when I apply a retopo to it, it is obviously, it takes a while to do it, but it's all automized, and I don't have to manually sit and do the retopo. It does it on its own, and I get a very good square poly object. So that's one fantastic addition in Maya 2020 is what I would say. uh, yep, this is the same example of the retopo. If you can see this small image of the dinosaur which has triangulated mesh. Now you do a retopo of the entire mesh. It takes a while, of course. It's not as fast as you can see now, but of course, sitting and doing a manual job, this is much more better and faster, of course. We have some lot of viewport improvements. I'm not going to get into that. Viewport 2.0 is becoming much more robust and very handy for all the artists. Viewport is now able to handle much more larger mesh and dense mesh at a very easy speed. The last one, I think, right now, before I jump into 2.1, is the proximity tool and the animation tool, of course, the viewport improvements. This is something which I would very interested in showing you guys. There are also tutorials on how to do it. Now you can have a second object drive your facial expressions or muscle movements and stuff like that, which is very easy. So how does it work is basically in this scene there is a face which has been used, and in that face what I do is there is another mesh of the same object which has been incorporated. So if you see, there is a grid, there is a mesh of its own, and this is the inside part, to which there is a cluster attached to the eyebrows, so that I can use that mesh, the wireframe, as to give expressions. So what I can do is create proximity app. Okay, and how do you attach the proximity app? Is proximity wrap is basically, all you need to do is, first of all, select the object which needs to be the geometry which will be driven, and secondly, you need to select a driver which will drive the entire mesh. Okay, so that can be a small object on its face, or it can be a cluster, or it can be anything. Now if I select the handle and try to move, which is moving the grid, it will also move my mesh. So this is a very easy example of having facial expressions which can be something else, not you don't have to skin, or you don't have to bone the entire facial expressions. All you need to do is apply use something else like an external object to drive the entire facial expression or muscle movement or whatever. So since there is only one expression, we can reduce the maximum drivers. The fall off has to be increased, because not we just don't want a small pinch of the muscle to be moved. We want it for a larger area so that it is smooth, and you can just use the soft normalization, and there are much more handles which you can play around with. But the problem here, you can see the eyebrows are not moving. It's just the a small pinch of the upper portion of the eyelid which is being applied. So I can apply one more driver, that I want this object also to be moved along with the mesh, and not the driver, the driven object. And now if I move the class cluster, you can see it moves my eyebrows as well as the upper eyelid both together. So this is a very easy and handy way of creating facial expressions, uh, and not, if not needed that it has to be a character, it can be a soft object, it can be anything, and you can work with that. You can also make it more denser mesh to have more detailed movements and so on. So all this is driven by the node based. You can see this is the graph which actually moves my character view. Anyways, moving to animation thing, there are 60 plus animation tools which has been added to the scene. Like for example, if I open the coasting, let me just take the simple workflow, and you can see when I go inside the mesh. I'm not going to get into the detail of this because there are tons. There are 60 plus new features which has been added, but I'm just going to rush through some of them. You can see there is color differences and so on, which can be uh, um, applied. You can select the spear, and then you can just keep your the selected ones in which you want to work with. And if you wish to add a new keyframe, like for example, if you say insert keyframe and then you just select a keyframe here, most of the time, sorry, I'm just going to go back and say insert key. If you say insert a key here, the mesh actually, the curve basically has a small movement. So if you say preserve tangent, this is on, this will slightly deviate and give a curve to my object. So if you just remove this and add a keyframe, it will not change the curve of the graph. Also insert background. Background is basically just inserting, and so there are a lot of improvements in this. At the same time, you also have display for sorry, this is not the attribute which I was talking about. Preferences, I don't reveal some. Okay, there is something called as view. All these ones are new, which you can just go inside. Okay, themes is what, which is very interesting. There has been incidents where the artist has color blindness, which is quite normal between humans, and they are not able to differentiate between the colors of so and so things. What you can do is you can select a theme based on your requirement. You can have a classic one, you can have a color blind capabilities, you can have color preferences, you can select those colors of the tangents and interface and so on, and just go along with your own interest. But yeah, this is something which you can go online and check, because there are 60 plus animation features which has been added in Maya 2020. So looking at the time which we have, like to just stick to the basic ones. And of course there are YouTube videos in the Maya learning channel which you can refer to. So there is an improvement in the Arnold part. Arnold GPU has finally released when it's a part and parcel of Maya 2020. I'm not going to talk about Arnold now because we have a next webinar which is next week on the Arnold GPU part. There is a lot of improvement in the lighting and rendering part. Again, the next topic which I'll be covering. Bifrost, again, there is a separate webinar on the same which I'll be covering, so no discussions on Bifrost, but just to let you know, there's a lot of improvements on the Bifrost as well. Quickly, the last interesting part is Maya 20.1. There is no much improvement, but there is one fantastic tool which has been added to, which is the Rococo motion capture system, which is a part of the Maya tool right now. So what is it? I'm going to talk about that. Let's play a small video about it. All right, so what is Rococo Motion Library all about, and what is this? How is it included in the Autodesk Maya tool? So let me just take you inside Maya once again, and I'm just going to switch off all these things. And let's say, you remember that we used to have a content library earlier, and now we can just go inside animation. There is Windows, there is yeah. So when you go inside the animation editor, you have something called as motion library, which is new thing in the Maya tool. Now Rococo is a very old company which still does a lot of motion capture animation. So they're the owners of, they're basically a part of the triple A formation, where they they do the motion capture animation for various customers, which is also available online, which used to be a paid feature earlier, but now it's a part of Maya. So if you see, when I open the motion library, there is a huge list of library which comes in, and not just one or 10. There are thousands of animation, what you can say, free samples which are available, and some are paid, but there are lot of them which are free of cost. So you can just check them out. These are ones which are available for free, and you can just use them. So whichever you want, and there are so many of them, like, just keep your cursor on them, let it just load for a second, and once it is loaded, you can see the preview of the animation, and this is completely free to use. So there are many of them. What I can do is I can just jump to the category part, and when I say the categories, it will let me take it will take me to sports, fashion, dance, adventure, everyday life, entertainment, or so on. So if I go inside the dance one, it will just load the library, and then there are a couple of them which is interesting, which is funny, and if you want to use them for your day-to-day activities, you don't have to manually keyframe them, but this is something which is easily usable, and you can directly apply it to your models. So how does this work? There are tons of there are various things included in it. You have so what I can do is, let me just select one of these. Okay, let me go to the category and select something which is action based. uh, Action category, adventure. Okay, let me just go to action, and there would be a lot of this one, like for example, this is what I have. Okay, so I like this, and what I'm going to do is open this up and say add to cart. So when I say add to cart, it's going to be added in my cart. Okay, and once it is uploaded, all I can do is go inside the cart and yeah, check out. Yeah, I think it's still going. Check out, confirm this order, whatever. Yeah, I can just go inside my library. Okay, yeah, purchased, it's added now. I hope. Why did it? Let me go back to action. All right, if it's still taking time, I'm just going to select this, not spend much time on this, because yeah, I just need to download this. When I download this, it's going to come in my library, or else it just says import. I can just select this import, and because my Maya is open, it will directly put it in my Maya scene. And you can see I have the scene of the rig which is there inside, which comes and jumps and does the job. So for example, let me just take a new scene for now, and this is going to be the last part of the presentation. I'm just going to open it and say mm, okay, let me, okay, not a problem. Let me just select this army man once again, which already has the motion of the running part. Let me just, and this was also, okay, let me, I don't know whether it was that. Let me just go back to motion library and say import. Let's see how it works. It has come in, and which one is that? Let me just say, go back and say, I don't know whether this one is, I just need to stance. I think this one is, oh, 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 oh. Let me just, okay, I just need to make sure that this works fine, and since it's we don't have much time, but all you can do is you can apply this thing to the character which is there, and all you need to work around with this. I just need to check among this entire list of my bones which one is it, because I've just messed up with a lot of things. But this can be directly assigned to your character, and your character will be ready to do this job. So this is how easy it is now, and all you need to do is just make sure that you download them and assign it to your characters. In case if there are some issues in the rigging part, you can just fine tune it and you're good to go. The whole idea about that tool is that you don't need to do keyframe animation. You have the animation handy with you, and it's not just 1, 2, or 10. There are tons and tons of them handy along with it. So that was the quick big update of Maya 2020.1, and now I will leave it for Q&A. And meanwhile, while the Q&A is happening, I would request that you'll be getting some poll questions asked. So please feel free to reply to respond to those questions, and we would be more than happy to receive feedback from you guys. And I'm just keeping it open for Q&A. Let me just open them. Okay, Gaurav says, we learn 3D modeling of electronic products. Any suggestion course? So when you say electronic product, as in I am assuming that this would be more of not character, but it would be more on the mechanical part, right? So I mean, you can search for animation on 3D modeling of modeling for non-organic products. There would be tons and tons of courses available. There is something called as 3D sorry, I'm just forgetting the name. There are a lot of resources online as well. And basically, if you know product modeling, then it's up to you how to implement it. It's as easy as it. It's not too difficult. CG Talk is one thing where you can go and learn. There is FX PhD, where there are lots of tutorials for 3D modeling, texturing, animation, and so on. You can choose your course and then take this course on. Uh, Any more questions? I don't see more questions flaring in. Can we export? Yeah, like there's any bookmark available for 3ds Max. Okay, there is Ashish Kumar. There is no bookmark available for 3ds Max now, but slowly you will see that, because that's there in the roadmap. There was a new version of 3ds Max which got released yesterday. We still need to explore it a lot. I haven't gone through the features yet, so give me some time. We will be doing a webinar on that, and if there is something available, that I will let you know. Gaurav has asked me the site. It's CG Talk, and there is FX PhD, two big ones, FX PhD. And in case you can just Google them and ask for product modeling tutorials and all. There are some free ones as well, which you can just go through it. I can see a lot of people answering the poll. Okay, I have some questions. You said about viewport update. Is this? Okay, UDM based. It's again, I'm saying there are a couple of improvements which we still need to have it. Viewport 2.0 was the first step towards it. 19 we had much more improvements. 20 would be for UDIM and all would be still the same, but there is a lot of improvements in terms of handling large heavy scale sized images, which used to be a task in between because the refresh rate used to be too slow. If you click on one button with a higher size objects, it would take time to select that, and if you want to move it, it would take time again. So these kind of updates are much more faster in terms of Maya 2020. There are USD Universal Scene Detect is also a part of Maya 2020. That's going to be a huge topic to discuss, hence I have not discussed this in the webinar today, but if you guys have time, please try to have a look at this USD updates on Maya 2020. Yes, Kaushik, there are updates on the rigging part as well. Because of less time, I couldn't go inside the in-depth of rigging part. But yes, if you see on Maya Knowledge website, you can just type on Maya 2020 new updates. There are tons of features which you can see, which you can learn, which you can go through it and study as well. All right, poll question is going on, and any more questions are welcomed. So just to keep you informed that today we were supposed to have one more guest speaker actually who was supposed to speak along with me from a very big and renowned company, animation house, but unfortunately because of the lockdown, since last week they were not able to go to the studio and prepare for the presentation, and hence they were unable to present along with me. But I am still trying for another guest. I won't name them right now because I still need to confirm if they are also unable to create presentation, because all the content is in their studio, and at this crucial moment where they will be also busy handling their projects, deliverables and all that stuff, I don't want to disturb them. But if possible, I would be having a guest speaker for the session which is happening next week. So Ashish, the next webinar is on next Thursday, same time. I think you would be getting the invite, or you must have already got it. If not, you will be getting it soon today after the webinar. And the next webinar is on Arnold GPU, which got released with Maya 2020. And Kaushik, yes, I am very excited to do a webinar on lighting and rendering for design visualization, especially for architects and 3ds Max. I'm planning it, and I want to do it with a customer as a live example. So please hold on, stick to it, and as soon as it is ready, you will be informed. And thanks for asking this question. Cool. Thank you. And I'm seeing that last question. Is there anything which is? Yes, Vishal, there is improvements on for texturing as well. As I said, if you can go on the Maya 2020 updates session, there are some improvements on the UV mapping and all that stuff. Actually, the UV map handling on the viewport. For example, when you had your mesh and the viewport, the UV editor opened, and when you were selecting the UV coordinates, there used to be a lag which has now been improved. So if you can just have a look at those tutorials and try it out in 2020 for UV mapping performance, you would see that. Cool, Ashish, you will be informed for the 3ds Max and Arnold integration webinar very soon. And cool. I think the poll questions have been answered by everyone. The last one I was very interesting question which I asked was, I hope everyone is working or maybe at home and not in office, but I can still see some 4% of people are still in office. But guys, please take care of yourselves, be safe, and this is for our safety and not just our individual safety, but for your family, your friends, and for the country's safety. So just stay back, sit and be safe till 21st, and then let's catch up. Until then, let's all gain more knowledge on the product, learn and study more, and be ready after the lockdown period. So with that, I would like to close this presentation today. There is Ramesh who's saying, please provide me link of engine UV binary file Max Interactive. Okay, Ramesh, I will have your question. I will just go through it and get back to you. I will also have your email ID. So I'll try my level best to send you what you want. Cool, guys. Thank you so much for your time. When can I see the session on YouTube? Okay, Senthil, let me see. The recording of this would be shared with you guys. I guess I will check with Avinash once it is there. If not, then if it's uploaded on YouTube, we will share it with you. So thanks everyone for your valuable time. And once again, stay safe and take care. Bye-bye. With that, I would like to stop the broadcast.